So what was that thing I was going to go over with? Oh, I know what it is. Best management practices. So this is the best management practices brochure, and it's kind of weird because it's it's kind of made like a foldable brochure. So, it's got like page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, but it's pretty easy to follow. You know, I definitely recommend that you read this, you know, at the very least skim over it. It's got a lot of really good information, but the two big things that I always do with my trail projects is I always use hay bales in the ditch lines whenever I've got a freshly dug ditch line, and I'll put in a hay bale on steep slopes every 75 feet on on not steep slopes. I'll go every 100 feet, and they show like their hay bales. They use three of them. I just use one. I don't use stakes. I found that stakes aren't needed because basically within a very short time, as soon as you get a rainstorm, the hay bale gets surrounded by mud and it ain't going anywhere. Um, and then the other thing that I do is I um, spread seed in all my ditch lines using a conservation mix. And I've given you formulas for this in my notes. I tell you, how much a pound of conservation mix, how many square feet you can get out of it. And I give you examples on your ditch lines. So we're going to be using that information later on when we fill out our RTP grant and we want to, get reimbursed for spending that kind of money. So, that it's all really good stuff. Now, this thing talks about, doing this trail armoring, using bricks and blocks and stones and all this stuff. I can tell you that the best thing I've found is get a good clay gravel, spread it out 6 inches deep, um, and then use a vibrating roller on a skid steer to pound it down. And in about a year, that stuff becomes like concrete. So it works really good. I have used corduroy in the past. It's not as strong as using the hexagonal fabric, the honeycomb fabric, and putting rock in. Eventually, if you put a bunch of corduroy down, which is really just wooden branches that you put down, and then you kind of go over it with your trail, eventually that stuff rots away and it becomes a mud hole. So I'm not a big fan of using wood, as a corduroy material. Um, this is kind of similar to the honeycomb. These geo blocks. It's similar to the honeycomb stuff I was telling you about. I have never used this particular product, but I'm sure it would work really good based on my experience on how good the honeycomb stuff worked. But this kind of stuff is good stuff. And keep in mind when you look at this document, this is supposed to be meant as a catch-all for trails, that are walking trails, bike trails, not just this is not just ATV and snowmobile trails. So some of this stuff really doesn't apply to the type of trails that we're building. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So questions.